Welcome back to the show, everyone. It's DinaKalmeta here with CWW7 News. And for today's show, I wanted to bring you guys a quick update in regards to some headlines that have occurred in the last few days. And in fact, I'd like to start with this first headline. France's foreign minister warned on Wednesday that if world powers were unable to quickly reach a new agreement with Iran, particularly over its contested nuclear program, then a military confrontation seemed almost inevitable. European powers are seeking to create a diplomatic path with a view to getting an agreement to curb Iran's uranium enrichment activity by the summer and ahead of the October 2025 deadline, when UN sanctions related to the 2015 accord on Iran's nuclear program with world powers expire. The French official said that the window of opportunity is narrow. We only have a few months until the expiration of this accord. In case of failure, a military confrontation would seem to be almost inevitable. The earlier cabinet meeting, confirmed by 3 diplomatic sources, is rare and highlights mounting concern among Washington's European allies that the U.S. and Israel could launch airstrikes on Iran's nuclear facilities, unless, of course, there is a quick negotiated deal on its nuclear program. And Russia is warning the U.S. against any strikes on Iran's nuclear sites, saying that it would be catastrophic. Iran stated that they may have no choice but to seek nuclear weapons if they're attacked. And in response, Iran has bolstered its missile capabilities, positioning advanced air defense systems around the Strait of Hormuz while ramping up military activities. Russia and China recently held military naval drills with Iran in the Gulf of Oman. The United States is increasing the number of aircraft carriers deployed in the Middle East to 2, keeping one that is already there and sending another from the Indo-Pacific. In the meantime, what's happening with Sweden? Express News is reporting that there's a crisis in Sweden as nuclear bunkers are ready for World War III clash. Sweden has announced a $7.7 million plan to modernize its civil defense bunkers after warning Swedes to prepare for the risk of war. The Scandinavian country, which shares a border with Russia, has 64,000 bunkers, and the space is said to be sufficient enough for 7 million people, almost 3/4 of Sweden's 10.5 million population. And what's going on with China? China conducted a second day of drills around Taiwan on Wednesday, adding to the unprecedented military pressure it's applying to the president. The latest exercises, labeled Straight Thunder 2025A, were held in the central and southern parts of the Taiwan Strait, according to a Chinese military spokesperson. They tested the ability of the People's Liberation Army to conduct a blockade and involved precision strikes on simulated targets including ports and energy facilities. So there you have it, you guys, the prophecy of wars and rumors of wars. And speaking of China, the United States has banned romantic and sexual relationships with Chinese citizens for government employees in China. That's a very interesting headline. I think they had some issues in the last administration in regards to Chinese spies. Breitbart's reporting that the Trump administration has updated the citizen naturalization documents to reflect only 2 biological sexes. The policy update now provides a USCIS that recognizes that there are 2 biological sexes, male and female, for purpose of benefit requests and issuing documents. They now consider the person's sex to be that which is generally evidenced on the birth certificate issued at the time or near the time of birth. In instances where the information is missing, the USCIS will use secondary evidence to base a sex determination for official purposes. The term gender has also been replaced with sex throughout the agency's policy manual. In addition, an appendix containing standard language for medical professionals to certify gender identity has been removed. Fox News is reporting that world leaders across the globe are reacting to President Trump's Liberation Day tariff announcements, with some expressing disappointment and others making threats. On Wednesday, the president announced a baseline tariff of 10% on imports, in addition to reciprocal tariffs based on what each nation imposes on U.S. goods. Trump believes that these tariffs will incentivize foreign investment in the U.S. and spur domestic job growth. While several U.S. allies articulated their frustration with the tariffs, they also expressed a lack of interest in launching trade wars. Many called for negotiations with the U.S. for new trade agreements. The European Commission president called the tariffs a major blow to the world economy and said that there would be countermeasures, though she did not specify what that would entail. Meanwhile, China's foreign ministry said that there were no winners in trade wars and tariff wars. Additionally, according to Reuters, Beijing is also planning to take countermeasures. Trump has taken an especially tough approach to China, which was already hit with 20% tariffs earlier this year. China will now face 34% reciprocal tariff in addition to the 10% baseline imposed on all listed nations. The Japanese prime minister said that the tariffs would have a great impact on U.S.-Japan relations and the global economy. He vowed that the Japanese government would work to decisively protect the people's lives, jobs, and industries. Despite being subject to one of the lowest reciprocal tariffs at just 10%, the Australian prime minister said that his country would negotiate with the Trump administration to remove the tariffs. He said that he will not join a race to the bottom that leads to higher prices and slower growth. Canada and Mexico are exempt from the reciprocal tariffs for now, but they face a 25% tariff on goods, with Canada also being slapped with a 10% energy tariff. So if we take a minute to look at what these tariffs mean, I want to take a piece from Michael Snyder's report at The Most Important News. He says, I want you to think about all the products that are made in China that fill up the shelves at Walmart, Target, and our dollar stores. Now, a whopping tariff will be imposed on those products as they enter the U.S., and the companies that sell these products will have to pass that cost along to the rest of us. So thousands upon thousands of products that we all purchase on a regular basis are about to get much more expensive. It will be an epic inflationary shock, and those on the lower levels of the economic food chain will feel the most pain. So you may see some prices go up in the meantime, you guys. So just an FYI there, and you probably already knew that. Let's look at some other news. Fox News is also reporting that Elon Musk is not leaving just yet. There were a lot of reports out there that he had basically resigned a couple days ago. But in the meantime, he's actually wrapping up work on schedule once Doge is complete. And Musk and Trump have both previously said that Musk's role is temporary and would eventually come to an end in the coming weeks. So he's not going anywhere yet. Could be this month, or most likely maybe in May. So we'll see what happens. So there's the update on that. Told you guys I'd give you an update in regards to Trump running for a third term. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that Trump's attorney actually studied options for a third presidential term. And according to our Vice President, J.D. Vance, just last night he said that he and President Trump are focusing on governing right now and not who's running for president in 2028. In other news, Joe Rogan has suggested that Doge should investigate the makers of box office flop Snow White for managing to blow a $200 million budget on a movie that he says looks terrible. And from what I hear, the film itself was just a woke disaster. From the very beginning, before the film was even released, it was going to get bad ratings. But he wants Doge to actually investigate this enormous budget. So interesting news there. So what's happening in Bible prophecy? This report from SciTech Daily is definitely very interesting. They're saying that the monkeypox mutation has sparked a global alarm. This virus, mainly confined to parts of Central Africa, is rapidly evolving into a more serious global health threat. Scientists are alarmed by its growing ability to spread from person to person, a shift from its traditional animal to human transmission. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on. And here is a man that thinks that he's going to come back from life. A British man's body was flown 3,700 miles to a deep freeze chamber for a chance of reawakening. The patient had signed up to a program which offers members a chance of a reawakening via long-term cryonic storage. After his death on February 11th, carried out a preservation process including dry ice cooling, while transport permits were required for the 3,700-mile journey. Named only as patient 268, the future proofer's body arrived at the institute 16 days later. It goes on further to report that the patient was then placed in a cryostat for long-term cryonic storage. The suspension process involves bodies being placed in a large cryostat and stored in liquid nitrogen at 196 Celsius in hopes that in the future technology can bring about a second life as well as a cure for conditions that may have caused a clinical death. And apparently the bodies of pets are also stored at this facility. Ray Ettinger, the longest running patient, has been in her sub-zero waiting room since 1977. In other news, the state of Texas has been rocked by over a dozen earthquakes in just the last day. With that said, a strong earthquake with a multitude of a 6.0 has hit Japan. This comes just days after a deadly quake in Myanmar. Japan is known for its frequent earthquakes due to its location on the Pacific Ring of Fire. The Daily Mail is reporting that a biblical disaster has hit the Greek holiday islands as roads have turned into raging rivers and cars are swept away after an extreme rainstorm. According to local reports, for several hours, driving through main roads in Paros was impossible as streams swelled and floodwater surged through the streets. The extreme weather conditions made it difficult for rescue teams to access hard-hit areas, prompting authorities to advise residents to stay indoors as the rain was described as dangerous and out of control. Footage from the island has shown roads flooded in brown water as cars and debris float past buildings, also submerged in the torrents. Fox News is reporting that a tornado outbreak has killed 7, injures dozens in Mississippi Valley as states of emergency were declared. The deadly tornado outbreak spawned more than 20 reports of twisters across the lower and mid-Mississippi Valley on Wednesday and Wednesday night. At least 6 people have died in Tennessee due to the severe weather, according to the state's Department of Health. The storms also injured multiple others and destroyed several homes from Arkansas, Missouri, and Tennessee through Kentucky, Illinois, and Indiana. As the tornado threat continues, a new danger is emerging, potentially catastrophic flooding. Heavy rain is likely to turn streets into rivers and make travel impossible in some of the already hard-hit areas. And I know I promised you guys a short report. There's just so much news. Here's your last headline. New York Times is reporting that Easter eggs are so expensive that Americans are dying potatoes. So there you have it, a lot happening all over the world. And as always, I'll continue to keep you updated. But I'd love to hear from all of you. So please do leave your comments below this video. And when you have a free moment, come on over to our social media pages, such as Truth Social, Telegram, Rumble. We're also on Facebook and X. And we also have a new website at www.cww7news.com. All right, everybody, thank you so much for watching. Have a blessed day and stay safe.